He will be in Manipur shortly for his first visit in the northeastern state since ethnic violence broke out in May 2023. He will be meeting displaced families of the warring communities of Manipur. Taking to his social media account, the Prime Minister has announced that he will be attending programs in Churachandpur as well as Imphal. Remember, Imphal is the valley area of Manipur. Churachandpur is in the hilly side of Manipur. The Prime Minister has added that he is committed to all-round development of Manipur. 7,000 crore rupees worth of infrastructure projects will be inaugurated by the Prime Minister in Manipur over the next 3 hours. The Prime Minister will be arriving in Churachandpur district from Aizawl in Mizoram. He is expected to interact with people who were displaced by the clashes between the dominant Meitei and Kuki-Zo communities and lay the foundation stone for projects over 7,300 crore rupees. The choice of Churachandpur is significant because the district was among the worst hit by the violence, which claimed at least 260 lives and left hundreds displaced. Take a look at some of these reactions.
Thus, the visit of Honorable Prime Minister to the state will pave way for peace, normalcy and accelerated growth in the state. Honorable PM will be arriving in Manipur on 13th September 2025 from Aizawl. On his arrival at Churachandpur around 12:15 p.m., he will first interact with some of the internally displaced persons in the district. He will lay foundation stone of various infrastructure projects to be taken up throughout the state. The Honorable Prime Minister will address the public gathering at Peace Ground, Churachandpur. Thereafter, he will arrive at Kangla around 2:30 p.m. and first interact with some of the IDPs in the valley areas. The Honorable Prime Minister will be inaugurating various development projects within and outside the state belonging to Manipur.
Okay, Saurabh Gupta is live with me from Imphal. Let's go straight across to him. Saurabh, we're not going to obviously comment on the specifics of the Prime Minister's movements because there are various various changes being made. There's also a security angle to all of this, so we won't be commenting on that. But the Prime Minister imminently arriving in Imphal. The bad weather in Manipur has meant that there will be certain changes as well, that there might have to be a road route as well.
Yes, that's the plan. And of course, like you said, security reasons. And Manipur, of course, has really briefed up the security ahead of the Prime Minister's visit. But the importance of the visit is not lost on anyone. I'm right outside the Kangla fort. And of course, this is where the program in Imphal will take place. The Prime Minister also has a program in Churachandpur, like you mentioned, where, of course, he will inaugurate, lay the foundation stone for projects worth over 7,300 crores. And this will happen at the Peace Ground in Churachandpur, Manipur, after he meets the internally displaced people or the IDPs due to this ethnic conflict in Manipur. Following that, the Prime Minister will come to Imphal and, of course, arrive here at the Kangla fort. And there, too, he will meet the internally displaced people from the communities that reside in the valley. And then, of course, he will inaugurate infrastructure projects that is worth 1,200 crores. So, the Prime Minister, of course, yesterday we've been speaking to people. A lot of people in Manipur have said that they're welcoming the Prime Minister and they look forward to, hearing from him. And of course, one of the themes that this visit is about is that it's looking forward. If India is to be a Viksit Bharat by 2047, then each and every part of India is on the radar of the government. The Prime Minister deeply cares for the state and the people, and therefore this is a way of taking Manipur forward from the past few years, which has seen a lot of violence. Now, of course, the situation is better. The security situation is better. there is more stability. And that is why the focus now needs to be on rebuilding the state, which is what the Prime Minister's visit is largely focused on. In fact, 7,300 crores is not a small sum of money. And it's, of course, something that the Prime Minister will be doing in Manipur during his visit. And then, of course, inauguration of projects worth 1,200 crore in Imphal itself, right here at the Kangla Fort, the historic Kangla Fort behind me, where the Prime Minister will arrive after his program in Churachandpur.
Saurabh, just take us through what we're expecting to see in Manipur today. There are some big infrastructure projects that are going to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister. He's also going to be meeting a lot of people from the displaced groups. Just take us through specifically what we're expecting to see, because today is important. It's the first visit by the Prime Minister, a little over 2 years after the crisis actually began. So all eyes are going to be on every little aspect, every little agenda item on today's visit.
Absolutely. And, the weather, of course, is a challenge, but that hasn't, sort of dampened spirits at all. In fact, you can see people are still coming in for the Prime Minister's program in this rain to attend to the program, to listen to what the Prime Minister has to say. And a lot of people are arriving now at Kangla Fort as we speak. Now, in terms of benefits of these projects, what we know is that there are going to be working women's hostels with modern amenities, a focus on women, then of course a focus on healthcare, and also there is of course this larger sort of Manipur Infotech development project. Then you have the Manipur Bhavans in Delhi and Kolkata for affordable accommodation to students, patients and their families in need. The Eklavya Model Residential School will offer free quality education, thereby empowering tribal youth, and specifically focused on tribal youth as well. And then several projects under the Smart City mission that will improve the quality of quality of life, and focusing on growth, sustainability, and of course inclusivity in Manipur. So that's largely the focus of the Prime Minister's program. 2 programs in Manipur, one in Churachandpur at the Peace Ground, and of course the final one here at the Kangla Fort right behind me, the historic Kangla Fort, which is situated right in the heart of Imphal city.
Saurabh, we'll keep coming back to you. Thanks for joining us. Remember, politics is already broken out even before the Prime Minister arrived, and that was only to be expected. Manipur has been a political flashpoint for the better part of the time that it has been erupting since May 2023. Congress MP Priyanka Gandhi has already hit out at Prime Minister Modi for his Manipur visit, saying it's too little too late. She says the Prime Minister should have visited much earlier and not after 2 years of violence, grief and suffering in the state. Remember, Rahul Gandhi and other leaders have already visited Manipur, as have leaders from the government. But the Prime Minister's visit after 2.5 years has already become a political talking point. Expect much more of that. Priyanka Gandhi has fired that first shot. You can expect many more reactions to come in once the Prime Minister arrives in Manipur.
I'm glad that he has decided after 2 years that it's worth him visiting. He should have visited much long before, and it's very unfortunate that he has allowed what is happening there to happen for so long, and so many people to get killed and so many people to go through so much strife before he has decided to visit. That's not been the tradition of prime ministers in India. Right through, no matter which party they were, wherever there was pain, wherever there was suffering, they would go. And that has been the tradition since independence. So he's fulfilling it after 2 years. I think he should have thought of it before.
Let me bring in a perspective from Ratnadeep, joining me live in Guwahati tonight, this evening. Ratnadeep, the Prime Minister's 3-day visit is to different parts of the Northeast. Obviously, Manipur is attracting the maximum attention for obvious reasons, like Saurabh and I were just talking. But just give us a perspective on how important this is. The Prime Minister's, attachment to the Northeast has been very much apparent through multiple visits in the past as well. Manipur stands out right now because what has been happening. But take us through the rest of the tour today. It's a 3-day tour.
Absolutely, it is a very significant tour, as you have rightly pointed out. And remember, this personal attachment that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has towards Northeast region is something that the people also acknowledge across states in Northeast. In fact, there is a lot of excitement about his 2-3 days visits, which has started from Mizoram when he landed, but due to inclement weather, he could not fly to Aizawl. In a virtual mode, he actually inaugurated the 3 railway trains to other parts of the country from the newly built Sairang railway station, which has put Mizoram in the national railway network. Remember, Mizoram, if you see, is a very remote state, and therefore in the monsoons particularly, the road links get disrupted. The airfares would between Aizawl to Guwahati, which is about a 40 minutes flight, would be more than 15,000 rupees. So for the common people, it was a big issue, and therefore, the government of India taking this initiative. Remember, it was Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2014 who laid the foundation stone of this 51-kilometer railway link between Vairabi and Sairang to link Mizoram to the national rail grid. This is seen something by the people of not only Mizoram but other parts of Northeast as a great reach out of New Delhi to link the far-flung areas. And remember, the Prime Minister also highlighting this point without taking name of the Congress. He clearly said that in governments in past had this thought that places like Mizoram have less votes, have less members in the parliament, so there was no focus. But in Northeast, although there are only 14 members from all the 8 states of Northeast to Lok Sabha, Prime Minister says that these marginalized areas have been now mainstream. This is perhaps his philosophy when it comes to promoting Northeast, and therefore, as you have rightly pointed out, the Manipur visit is definitely the highlight of this 3-day visit. But remember, all across Northeast, in this 3 days visit, he's going to inaugurate or lay foundation stones of projects worth 38,000 crores, which is a big investment in this region. He's going to inaugurate the country's first bioethanol plant, which has come up in Numaligarh in Assam. Is going to inaugurate that tomorrow. In Assam, there will be several key projects which will be inaugurated and foundation stone laid. So therefore, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaching out to this region once again with his mantra of development. Remember, what he is trying to say is that these 8 states of Northeast is part of India's growth engine, and it is the gateway to Southeast Asia. He rightly pointed out in his speech in Mizoram.
I'll come back to you. I want to show our viewers some of the ground reports we've gotten from Manipur. The Prime Minister is about to arrive in Imphal. Let's show our viewers what Saurabh Gupta, our man on the ground in Manipur for this coverage, has just sent us from the state.
Preparations for the Prime Minister's visit on in full swing. Now, these, of course, are the barricades that are being put up from the helipad all the way to the peace ground where the Prime Minister is going to address the gathering here in Churachandpur, Manipur. Now, this, of course, is a huge visit. It comes after decades that a Prime Minister is visiting this part of Manipur, and therefore, huge significance is being attached to this particular visit as it comes in the backdrop of also the ethnic conflict in the state that began in 2023. But the Prime Minister's visit is focused on the future rather than the past. It's about the development that the union government is wanting to bring to Manipur, and also ensuring that the people of Manipur are not left out of the idea of a Viksit Bharat or a developed India. And therefore, these efforts are being showcased during the Prime Minister's visit as well. There have been some, cases where a little bit of, there were some places where this barricading was, of course, brought down last night. But again, this is all being set up for the Prime Minister's visit.
I'm from the Directorate of Environment and Climate Change Movement of Manipur. We are all responsible for this, making all this beautification part. Not only my department, Forest Department, Directorate of Environment, Climate Change, ADC Churachandpur. Since 6-7 days back, we have been engaging for all this beautification part. But unfortunately, yesterday, some unwanted things had been happened. But although the villagers have come out since last night to overtake all this beautification part again, and I think the villagers have a good cooperation, and this will have a good impact and good welcome to our Prime Minister coming tomorrow.
Generally, all of us are so delighted to welcome him, and we are preparing at our best, especially departments, government employees, and all over the people of Churachandpur.
The leaders of these communities have already put out statements welcoming the Prime Minister and, of course, heartily welcoming the Prime Minister. And therefore, this is going to be a very, very important visit of the Prime Minister to Manipur. With camera person Azam Siddiqui in Churachandpur, Manipur, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV. Several projects are to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister or the foundation stone, welfare projects. Now, because of the conflict, Manipur's development and Manipur's progress has also suffered in the last 2 years. The government says that these projects, which are being organized, including specific projects that are aimed at the welfare of the tribal community. How do you look at that?
Right. I have not seen the details of the project, but I have heard that a huge amount of fund has been allocated for the Kukizo people, especially the tribal here in Manipur. So it's a positive sign, because one of the discontentment of the tribal people is development. So there has to be, along with our political solutions, side by side, development has to go also. So I'm sure this will also give the people confidence to the government of India.
And the government of India, and specifically the Prime Minister, is focused on what he calls a Viksit Bharat, which is a developed India.
Okay.
And no space or no part of the country can be left out of that program. Okay. If India has to develop, every part of India has to develop, including far-off places like Manipur, far-off states like Manipur in the northeast, including tribal communities in the northeast. And there's a specific focus on that. Welfare of tribals is something that the government is saying is a key part of its solution. How do you look at that?
Right, it's a positive sign, and like I said, it's a welcoming gesture from the government part, and this will bring a lot of trust in the government of India, which the people have lost. So I am very positive, and I welcome this kind of project for our land. And like I said, along with the development of the welfare of the tribal people, will come a lasting solution for the region.
Joining me now is the chairman of the Zomi Council. Sir, very quickly, how do you see the Prime Minister's visit to the state, especially he's coming right here in Churachandpur?
The intended visit by the Prime Minister to this town, Lamka, Churachandpur district, takes place after more than 40 years. And we are very much happy to receive the Prime Minister of the country in our town, and we are going to welcome him with our heartiest greetings.
And sir, also several projects intended for the welfare of the tribal community is something that the Prime Minister's visit is likely to outline. How do you see that?
I have not seen through the details of the project, except that 7,200 crores for the development of the district will be inaugurated. So it's going to be a big deal, because in this area, a development scheme that is carried out with that much amount of money is going to give a lot of benefit to the people here. So that is most welcome, and we are happy about this.
Any specific welcome message or any specific request to the Prime Minister?
Unusually, Manipur was reeling under ethnic violence between Imphal Valley people and the hills. So the Prime Minister, when he comes around here, we would expect and we would like to request him that he should address the issue of this political division and difficulties faced by internally displaced persons, IDPs. So lots of resettlement, lots of rehabilitational works are required to be done. That has not been taken off properly. And then political delineation of Imphal Valley and the tribal has to be accorded by the central government. So that is our request also.
And the politics has escalated now after Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge has fired a shot at the Prime Minister on his Manipur visit. Kharge says a 3-hour pit stop does not translate into compassion, especially if it comes 2.5 years after the Manipur crisis actually began. Mallikarjun Kharge has called the Prime Minister's Manipur roadshow a cowardly escape. He's just put out on social media, the Congress president. He says your 3-hour pit stop in Manipur is not compassion. It's farce, tokenism, and a grave insult to a wounded people. Your so-called roadshow in Imphal and Churachandpur today is nothing but a cowardly escape from hearing the cries of people in relief camps. This hush-hush pit stop isn't repentance. It's not even guilt. You are organizing a grand welcome ceremony for yourself. It is a cruel prick to the wounds of those still suffering because of your own abdication of basic constitutional responsibilities. In the words of your own, where is your Raj Dharma? This is Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge firing a very, very aggressive and escalatory shot at the Prime Minister on his Manipur visit, even before it has actually begun. Saurabh is our man on the ground in Imphal. He joins me once again for a quick word on this. Saurabh, we were expecting this, weren't we? The politics over the Prime Minister's visit was always going to be aggressive. Priyanka Gandhi first, now Mallikarjun Kharge. I think it's going to get even more now.
Oh yes, absolutely. And the politics was always there and it's going to be there. And of course, this is something that we've seen play out in the past as well. But, you know, just to put things into perspective, before 2023, when this violence began, and not just, this is not just for Manipur, but the other northeastern states as well. In the last 10 years, you speak to anyone in the Northeast and they will tell you that when it comes to infrastructure development or connectivity, there has been tremendous development. Manipur, in the last 2 years, because of the violence, did take, those projects took time to complete. For example, even Manipur has a rail link that's being built and to connect the state capital of Imphal from Jiribam to Imphal. So obviously those projects are also underway. In fact, the rail line has already been built up to None. It already comes to a certain point during the conflict. So all of this is taking place. And Manipur, unfortunately, has been caught in a web of politics as well. And that's something that we've seen play out throughout the crisis as well. And between the Congress and the BJP, there have been, accusations and counter-accusations. The Congress says the BJP hasn't done enough. When it comes to the historical issues that plague the state, the BJP says these are legacy issues. And they were not issues that, sort of came about during our tenure in the state. But beyond that, the state is now looking forward. The state is looking at how to come out of this cycle of violence, how to have a peaceful, lasting solution and focus on development. And that's kind of going to be the focus of the Prime Minister's visit as well.
Saurabh, can you give us an update on the Prime Minister's movements right now? Has he arrived yet?
Well, the last heard was that he was scheduled to arrive any moment in Churachandpur at the peace ground. He's going to also meet the IDPs. And remember, the IDPs are very important, the internally displaced people, because of this ethnic conflict. And there are several relief camps in the areas, surrounding the hills and the Imphal Valley. So on the agenda of the Prime Minister, something that the communities themselves have also flagged is the issues that the IDPs are facing. And therefore, both in Churachandpur and in Imphal, the first thing on the agenda of the Prime Minister is meeting the internally displaced people, the IDPs. And that's going to be a key feature of this visit because, understanding from the people who've been worst affected by the violence, who've lost their homes, who've lost everything, what it has been, for them to live under the shadow of violence is something that Perhaps they will share when the Prime Minister interacts with them. And like I said, any moment now, the Prime Minister should be in Churachandpur interacting with the internally displaced people. And it's important to note that in both events in Manipur, both in Imphal and in Churachandpur, the first thing on the agenda is meeting the internally displaced people.
Saurabh, stay with me. I just want to recap for our viewers once again as the Prime Minister lands in Imphal, Manipur. I just want our viewers to know what the significance of this visit is. We appreciate that many of our viewers from different parts of the country and the world tuning in right now need a quick recap because this is an important visit, and I urge all of you to listen carefully because this is a visit that could be a turning point for Manipur. It's the first visit by the Prime Minister to Manipur since the violence, the terrible ethnic violence broke out in Manipur in May 2023. Let's keep moving. This is the Manipur visit is to pave the road to peace. That's the reason why there are many infrastructure projects being inaugurated by the Prime Minister. He's also going to be meeting some of the ethnic groups. The Prime Minister will be visiting both Churachandpur and Imphal. Imphal, remember, is the capital of Manipur. That is the valley area of Manipur. Churachandpur is the hill districts of Manipur where much of the ethnic unrest had actually taken place. A message of balance, of unity to the people is what the Prime Minister will be carrying. It's a very, very difficult and complicated message in a place where the Meitei people as well as the Kuki-Zo communities have been in a terrible and blood-drenched ethnic conflict for 2.5 years. A healing touch is what the Prime Minister is hoping to bring to the people of Manipur. He will be meeting internally displaced people. Lakhs of people have been displaced. They've gone across the border into Mizoram to refugee camps as well. The visit comes amidst government formation, speculation as well in Manipur. So all of this is taking place in Manipur at a time of great churn. The Manipur government was dissolved in February, and at this point of time there is a huge amount of speculation and suspense over what happens next in Manipur. The Prime Minister will be spending about 3 hours in Manipur today. The state is currently under governor's rule, which means central rule, and therefore law and order, security, etc. is all under the central government, under the Modi government. Now let's just quickly tell you what the Prime Minister will be inaugurating in Manipur, because remember, infrastructure, upgrading facilities in the state is of huge importance to try and bring even a semblance of normalcy after 2.5 years of violence. Projects worth about 7,500 crore are to be inaugurated and unveiled by the Prime Minister. Road and National Highway project in Manipur, which is a state that has seen lots of blockades in the last 2.5 years. This is actually a very good sign because it means supply chain movement, access to urban areas. A civil secretariat in Mantripukri is also going to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister. This is, of course, going to be paving the way towards government formation in the state. The infrastructure boost is obviously a big thing on the agenda for the Prime Minister. A special economic zone, an IT special economic zone building at Mantripukri is also going to be inaugurated by the Prime Minister. A police headquarters in the area will also be unveiled by Prime Minister Modi while he is there. An all-women's market in some districts is going to be also unveiled in the area. So this is a quick recap, a useful recap of what the Prime Minister plans to achieve in the very short time. There's politics over it. You've got Mallikarjun Kharge calling it a tiny little pit stop in Manipur. But in those 3 hours, as you can see, the Prime Minister will be packing in a great deal. Okay, let's go across now to our guests who will help us understand what is essentially a very, very complicated issue. Rajat Sethi, political analyst. Professor Kishalai Bhattacharjee is a senior journalist and commentator, and Hoini Hausel is a senior journalist as well. Thank you, all of you, for being with me. Rajat, I want to quickly come to you first. All of the three voices we have here on NDTV are people who, with a deep knowledge and a deep experience of looking at what has happened in Manipur and in the Northeast in general. Rajat, I want to start with you. I want to put the politics aside for a moment, but to get your opening thoughts of why today is so significant? Much has been said about why the Prime Minister has not gone to Manipur so far. It's been 2.5 years. We've seen the political barbs already land. But in terms of just the significance of the Prime Minister going there and what he really wants to achieve, your reading of it, Rajat?
Thank you, Shiv, for having me on your show. Clearly, for the past 2 years, we've been waiting for this moment when the peace and relative violence-free days can be added up in a way that there are no major events, and we could have the Prime Minister come in and address both the communities. I believe what has happened after the President's rule has been imposed, there has been 3 or 4 months of relative quiet. There has also been a lot of common ground for negotiations to succeed being created by the central government's intervention, and that has helped reach to a point where the Prime Minister, the highest political office in our country, to come down and interact with both the communities, and from here onwards create a path which is very concrete towards measurable success in integrating both the communities together and forging greater trust between two communities. Please understand, while the politicians might comment, please understand that Manipur has been a state where ethnic conflicts, even more severe conflicts, had been the mainstay of the state. We never used to hear about this in the news, but that was the norm of Manipur. And I believe, it was really unfortunate what happened in 2023, but I believe, and both the communities have paid huge personal losses through this exercise. But now, Prime Minister is going there, and I believe people will leave their bygones and try and look at cultivating together this common ground that has been created between the two communities. Again, people who have lost their lives, people who have lost their belongings and everything, it's very hard to fill in those voids. But somewhere the start has to be made. And I think this is where it is truly historic.
Ms. Aizawl, how are you seeing the Prime Minister's visit? What are you hoping it is going to achieve? NDTV, we have tracked very closely the terrible extremes of the violence that has consumed parts of Manipur for the better half of 3 years now. What is your reading of today's visit? What are you hoping it will achieve?
Yeah, good afternoon, Shiv. Thank you for having me. Today marks 497 days after the conflict started. It's easy to say too little, too late, but I shall not wander in that path and understand that silence and inaction has no more space. And the fact that he's going there, I would like to imagine that this will be the beginning. And also he's come with a lot of dreams, and a lot of dreams for people, and high sounding words like, things that we're going to do for the healing touch.
Okay, that's a bit of a shaky line that we have with Hoinu. Unfortunately, we'll try and go back to her. But Professor Bhattacharjee, if I could come to you right now with that same questioning, your opening thoughts on this. The Prime Minister is about to arrive in Imphal. Your opening thoughts, just give us a general overview of how you see this visit and what you're hoping it will achieve. Keeping the politics of all of it aside, what do you think it will achieve, sir?
I think, Shiv, of course, I'll be very curious, like anyone else, of why the government decided to, or the Prime Minister decided to take such a long time to visit. There must be a reason. But it is a huge opportunity for the state, for the Prime Minister, for everyone studying Manipur, because he has the ability to be able to give this healing touch. Now, having said that, it has been a century-old policy of the centers, in the Northeast, even since British times, to try and appease and broker peace through money or through benefits, and that hasn't worked really. And I think policymakers need to take a good hard look at it, because this is not the first time that such benefits and such projects were rolled out. So rolling out projects could buy peace, good for them, but I would be skeptical about it. So I think there should be policymakers in the North Bloc actually studying and addressing the root problems. The problem out here, of course, there are several problems. The first, internally displaced people. He will be meeting them. They need rehabilitation. We need free movement across the state for all communities, and that he must absolutely ensure. But I think where we need to caution ourselves, and the government must be seized of the problem, is that the rise of the civilian guerrillas. So far, over the last 50 years, Manipur, what Rajat was mentioning, yes, there was a situation of underground armed militia. But the rise of a civilian militia, seizing weapons, state weapons, retaining those weapons, and continuing to almost fill in the absent state. Now, that absent state needs to be taken over by the state. I think that should be right on top of the agenda. If he's inaugurating 20 projects, the number one project should be able to say that we are in control. We will reinstate a government, have election, whatever, but the state has to come in and say that we exist. Right now, it's an absent state, and I don't think so. The situation on the ground, your reporters will be able to tell you, I don't think so the people are expecting anything in terms of healing, in terms of free movement, in terms of the civil war ending anytime soon. The Prime Minister, however, has the ability to be able to resolve these problems. That's what I think, Sri.
I think that's a very good assessment, Professor Bhattacharjee. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone is expecting any miracles or big takeaways, but symbols matter. There will be the politics and the and the surround sound around this visit, but many will be expecting this to be some kind of a turning point, perhaps, in Manipur. It's going to be a slow march back to normalcy, but most people will be hoping that this can be one milestone towards a more positive outcome. Hoinu, we lost you for a moment. My apologies for that. Go ahead and complete your point, ma'am.
Yeah, today marks the 497 days. It would be easy to say it was too late, too little, but I don't want to go down that route. Any beginning, it's welcome, and we are happy that he has finally found time to come and be in the midst of people who have lost their homes. And I just wanted to understand that people should not be lured away just saying that he's come with a 7,300 CR amount of infrastructure development. I also want to understand very clearly where art is going to be placed. Is it going to be the same format of Imphal centric, which shouldn't be? So I hope that they have learned at least some ground realities and understand that development has to be, inclusive. Like he said, he's going there with an inclusive and overall development for Manipur. So I want to understand if all those things will now apply there. And I'm also a little concerned that, the basic problems of people who are displaced have not been addressed at all, in a way that there should be special rehabilitation and reconstruction package. That is something that I really want the PM's visit to address. And also, of course, the root cause, and practically understand from both sides what is it that ails them. Is there any political rearrangement that needs to be done? I think it's also time to really talk about uncomfortable issues and find a way forward from now. That it should not be just a token visit, a ceremonial token visit. It shouldn't end there, but uncomfortable questions, uneasy questions that may not immediately find answers, other things that should be addressed right now, and this is the moment to do those.
Rajat, you wanted to come in on that? No easy answers, but there is a very positive intent to what the Prime Minister is hoping to achieve here, despite all the surround sound around the fact that he hasn't come for over 2 years. This is a complicated issue. This was an issue which has a genesis that was beyond what the government was doing. This happened in a court. This is a part of the country that the Prime Minister, we know for a fact, has attached a very special significance to. He's visited the Northeast more times, according to some reports, than most other Prime Ministers combined. So that is something that can't be mistaken at all. But now the point is how to look forward towards a better outcome in Manipur. What's your reading of that, Rajat?
Absolutely. See, I think the central government with all its agencies have far more information and knowledge about the ground situations, where analysts who, like all of us who come on television, we don't have the full view. So what are those back channel discussions, deliberations to reach to a culmination point where the Prime Minister can go? Because also keep in mind that Prime Minister is the final last political authority, and if things don't get resolved at his level or at his office's level, then there is no hope left. So a lot of groundwork has to be done so that once the Prime Minister goes and some kind of a finality has to be reached. We have to understand that it is not a simple visit that you go and do for tourism purpose. There are lives at stake at both the sides. The amount of hectic effort that has gone in, not just in the past few months, but more than a year and a half, have gone in actually helping the two communities climb down from their very, very stiff position.
Yeah.
And by the way, Shiv, let me tell you, it's only happened over the last few days that both the communities, the Meitei community said that the militant, the Sioux arrangement, the suspension of operation arrangement with the Kuki militants can be can be re-entered into. That was a point that Meiteis were not agreeing to. So they agreed to that. Second, the Kukis also, they also gave their stiff position that there would be, a separate administration. They have also climbed down from their core position to create this environment where the Prime Minister can go and have a genuine heart-to-heart conversation. Otherwise, you can go, do picture optics and all of that and come back.
Yeah.
It will not heal the situation there, because this situation is not the creation of 2023. There are three communities, the Meiteis, Kukis, and the Nagas. All the three communities in all permutations have fought with each other, and there are deep mistrust between them. And therefore, if this mistrust has to be resolved, fundamental insecurities between the communities have to be addressed, and long deliberations have to be done in order to reach to that conclusion. So my point is, give the benefit of doubt to the central government, who is privy of this matter, who are privy to the absolute complexities that go in negotiating these positions.
Professor Bhattacharjee, on the specific points raised by Rajat, that work is being done, there has been a climb down in certain positions. Things are far from normal, but it's not like nothing has been done and suddenly the Prime Minister is just flying in like his political rivals would have us believe, but that this is inherently a difficult situation, but that work is on and there are some small visible signs that things may be getting a little better. In addition to what, of course, you are saying, Professor Bhattacharjee.
Shiv, I'll still maintain my position of skepticism, not for political reasons, but to be able to put on record that I think for the last 75 years, whether it was for the longest period duration the Congress government and then the BJP government and their policy makers, I don't think so they've read it right, because I, for the longest time, covered Manipur, and I imagined that there were people who were in the North Bloc and as joint secretary and secretaries of Northeast who knew the place and who knew the issues very well. Today, I look back and I realize that probably they just got it wrong. And there was this in 2015. I remember a retired director of the Intelligence Bureau said something which is almost prophetic, saying that the last 20 years we had armed insurgency, which was partly separatist, secessionist, or also, many of them demanding greater autonomy. The next 20 years, we are going to see bloody ethnic feud between communities living next to each other. I think, there was enough intel about what was coming. And I don't think we took it seriously, as a nation, as government, as policy makers, also, Shiv, to give an international angle to it. Let's not forget what has been happening in Myanmar, which borders Churachandpur and Manipur in various other, across the border. What's been happening in Myanmar for years now. There is a civil war going on out there. What has happened in Bangladesh should not be lost on us. What's happening in Nepal should not be lost on us. And I think Manipur cannot be allowed to be made into a laboratory for, earlier it was a laboratory for trying out insurgency, counter-insurgency measures. Now it seems to be a laboratory for ethnic, to be able to how to resolve ethnic problems out there. Now, these are conspiracy theories. I wouldn't like to ascribe, to believe in them, but it seems like no one actually is reading what's happening on the ground. The Cookies and the Meiteis we are talking about, don't forget that there is a very strong third party out there, the Nagas. The Prime Minister Modi comes to power in 2014. 2015, his first big project was to announce the Naga Peace Accord with Chisi and Su out there. Both of them were alive then. With the IB Special Director, who was the former IB Special Director R.N. Ravi, who's your Tamil Nadu governor now. And, Mr. Doval's greatest, feather on the cap was solving the Mizoram insurgency. He knows the Northeast better than anyone else. What exactly has happened to the Naga Peace Accord since 2015? It's been languishing. Nothing has moved ahead. So going with these things, I'm saying I would caution. All I'm saying is that
I take your point, Professor Bhattacharjee. I don't think anyone here is sitting and waving their hands and saying there are going to be massive visible and optical takeaways. We are all being very, very calibrated in what to expect because we accept that this is a complicated issue. Rajat, the live pictures coming in now. The Prime Minister will be arriving in Churachandpur very shortly, but you want to respond to some of the issues raised by Professor Bhattacharjee. You don't agree with some of them, I know, but what's your view on that? We are all being moderate today. We know for a fact that it's not going to be a big flourish or a huge announcement or a big takeaway in that sense. Everyone is looking at this with cautious optimism, even skepticism. We all share that as well. I'm sure Rajat does as well. Rajat, you want to answer?
See, while we can debate on despondency, but policymakers don't think like that. They have to take concrete steps. I can tell you that over the past couple of years, the amount of back-channel conversations that have happened with very prominent stakeholders from both the communities have been nothing less than a genuine heart-to-heart outreach. But there are gaps. I can understand. Even last night, for that matter, there were violence on the streets in Churachandpur. In Churachandpur is not an easy place to go. For 40 years, no Prime Minister has gone there. You can imagine it is right next to Myanmar. It is right next to the absolute hotspot of illegal insurgents actually coming in and crossing the border. There is violence that happened last night. There are severe security challenges in that region. And still the Prime Minister is going just to ensure that it is not seen that he is only going to Imphal and coming back. So he's making that outreach. Both the communities are putting in a lot of effort, but there will be miscreants. There will be cross-border, peddling of certain sentiments in this area to further push their agenda. No, who wants peace in that part of the country other than India? Nobody else. It is surrounded by around 4 or 5 countries on all sides. Nobody's interest is to see that area flourishing. So therefore, the challenges are of huge proportions, but you need to keep hope. You cannot be that despondent wherein ki na hua hai, aage kuch na hoga, aage kuch. I mean, the two communities will only fight. That is unfair. Even on the Naga Accord, let me tell you, there are still conversations going on. There will be a way to reach to certain sticky points, which is shared sovereignty and certain other terminologies which are being played around by the Nagas also, which is very dear to them. Again, I'm not belittling their cause.
Yes.
And so is India's position. They have climbed down from 370. They cannot climb up back on 371 articles. So these issues require deft handling. Maybe a officer cannot handle, then a new officer will come. There will be continuous effort that would be done. Governments will come and go. But these certain central issues, India cannot be seen as creating a state within a state.
Yeah.
Be it Manipur, be it Nagaland, and hence whatever it takes in terms of negotiations will carry on.
Hoinu, the conversations that the Prime Minister is going to have in Churachandpur, with the affected communities, with internally displaced persons, these are going to be crucial conversations, are they not? Beyond the optics, beyond the photo ops, beyond the politics of what is happening, these are small conversations that can make a huge difference, Hoinu.
Yes, definitely. This conversation, the fact that he is going there itself will warm a lot of hearts. But what remains to be seen is it should be followed up with action and a proper intent that he's come with something for the people. It should not be, like I said, it should not be just a token visit. For instance, at the core of this are the people who still need to go home, whichever, whether it's at the valley or in the in the hills, there has been no talk of resettlement and reconstruction of people's life. So that's something very important, because at the core of this are people whose life has been impacted. And they are the people who are, who are the suffering end of the whole the conflict. So I think it's very important that he announced something concrete for them. And also, if people have been watching to see that. Let's see if the conflict dies down on its own. We have seen it for the past 2.5 years. The divide seems to be stronger. So it absolutely calls for a more, an effort that would discuss an instrument that should address that. So I think it's time that we address the realities of those, and those are not featuring anywhere. And of course, there has been a lot of backdoor channels and in informal dialogue where I have also been a part of many things. But I'm just wondering, have they been, have they contributed to any blueprint or any decision that is being played out? So I think there is a certain ambiguity in the whole thing, how it is being handled. One, people, of course, are doubting the intent and the sincerity of the center, because people who have been in that hellhole continues to be there. So unless and until these basic things are discussed, people are not going to be swayed.
Okay.